What's poppin', everybody? It's your boy Gio Watson, keeping this tech. This video is very exciting. We're talking about the ML100 bicolor light from Godox, as well as the ML100R light. That's the RGB version of this light. Now you'd think that, oh, maybe the difference is only RGB, but no, these lights are surprisingly different from each other. I mean, they look the same. It feels like an upgraded version of that light, not just, adding RGB capability to it. So we're gonna break all of that down. Now, I also wanna point out too, now, I did not get sent these lights by Godox. I'm completely independent. They don't know that I exist. But side note, Godox, if you are watching, you wanna hook up and, we can talk, man. I'm available. You know what it is. But all jokes aside, I've actually been using Godox products for a long time. My first flashes were with Godox. In fact, this light that's keying me right now is the VL150 light, and that was my first big boy light. I was using these little rinky-dinky lights that you can get for 40 bucks on Amazon. I've since wanted to upgrade and change this light, but it's all about the ecosystem, right? I'm trying to figure out what I want to do, and these lights are a good way for me to experiment with what Godox has got going on. Because I'll be honest with you, I didn't know that they were being as innovative as they are. And you'll learn about these lights as I talk about them. I'm pretty impressed with what they're doing. Now, this video is not going to be super technical. I'm not going to go into like lumens and lux, and if I'm being honest with you, I don't really understand that stuff. But it's coming from a user experience perspective and how it feels to use these lights. And are they easy? Do they get in the way? Do I get what I need from them? Or do they leave me wanting a little bit more? I'll tell you what, I've had the bicolor light for a week now, so it's only been a week of use with it. And this R light, I just got it today. But that being said, I had a whole bunch of questions that I had written down with the intentions of doing this video to see how the bicolor light would work. I got a lot of answers, and I even have more questions now having used both of these together. And in case you're wondering, this is the bicolor light right here that is being used with the softbox. It's the SFSP, I don't know what the name is, but I'll talk about it. And it comes with a grid, a little bit overpriced for my opinion. Over here, this spotlight here is the R light, and I'm using a Digital Photo makes this. It's a mini snoot, which is incredible. It comes with gobos. It's like, look at this is wild, but this is all the kind of things that you can do with these lights and really take advantage of it. So yeah, we're gonna talk about all this stuff right after this. We're gonna jump right into the video, but before we do, I just wanna say there's so many things that we're gonna talk about. After all, I'm talking about two different lights and they're jam-packed with features. I'll make sure to leave everything timestamped. Also, I am talking about a lot of different things. If you guys are interested in them, I'll leave links in the description below. I'm not affiliated with Godox whatsoever, but these are affiliate links. And so if you do purchase from them, it does help out the channel, just so that you're aware. All right, so let's talk about the first thing that I wanna talk about, and then we'll jump right into the unboxing. We'll talk about the different kits and the capabilities and so on and so forth. And that is the versatility of this system. Godox did something that I think was incredible. They included the addition of, well, they didn't include it. This is sold separately, but this is available for this system. And this is the G-mount adapter for Bowings. And so basically all the existing modifiers that you currently own will work with this light. And I think that is absolutely fantastic. And that is a key selling feature for me. And if you look at this thing, it's pretty solid. This plastic feels solid and it's small. It doesn't really add that much bulk to the light. You see these other small lights, and they're like, you can use Bowings with them, but they have a huge handle and it's like, the light is no longer small anymore at that point. But they've kept this to the minimum and it looks great. And again, it works beautifully with any modifiers that you have that are already Bowings mount. Here it is. We have the kit number 2 for the price, which I'll have listed in the description. You're getting a lot. I think you're definitely getting your money's worth with this kit here. You get a carrying case. Okay, so here's our handle. Whoa, and check this out. This handle also has the ability to just throw it on a light stand as well and just secure it with this little secure pin here. Look at how rigid this is. You can lock it in. So if you want to do hand holding, you have your V-mount plate here. Boom. Let's freaking go. This is amazing. How do I release this now? Oh, hold on. That takes this off. Oh, okay. So that takes, so you can remove this plate And how do you, oh, is it, oh, okay, there's a release button right here to get that out. Okay. Oh, it comes with its own cable to connect it too. I don't even need to buy in a cable to make it work. You get a D-tap cable with the included DC. Oh, snap. All right, all right. This is the attachment. And then you have an umbrella holder here too if you wanted to do that. They honestly thought of everything. Okay, so we had our instruction manuals. We have the power brick. Okay, pretty standard. Power cord for the power brick. Okay, it looks to be pretty long too. Very nice. And here we go. Here it is. Yo, if this light doesn't look futuristic, bro, come on. I think the basic kit comes with this reflector here. This is the ML15. And this is more of a more narrow beam of light. The 36 is more of a wider spread. Look at how cool this is. All right, real quick, let's take a look at what we have. We have, I guess, our multi-function wheel. We have our mode here, power, 2 fans. This is made of plastic, but it feels pretty solid. This right here has this smooth feeling to it where these this fan plate here, I believe it's going to serve as the heat sink. You have ventilation on the top here and on the bottom. You have your 1/4-20 thread here to mount it here. And you have your I/O, which is your DC and USB-C. This is a release button, I think. Yeah, and here is your light. Now, what I read too is that this is glass, so this is protected in there, which is really nice. And there's your G mount, right? And nice, satisfying snap, absolutely. All right, cool. The design is a little different. You see that? We have like little hexagons in here. And over here, it looks like a nice little diffused center with these cool rings. So it is a little different. Yo, but look at this. This is crazy, guys. This is a 100-watt light. 120 watt, I guess, if you want to be technical about it. It's just crazy. Here's one of the attachments. Bam. Look how cool that is, man. That's that's it. Now you got a dome of light. 100 watts, 120 watts. Now, if you want to protect the light, maybe not throw a modifier on there, you have this little plastic cover on here. Now remember to remove this because this will absolutely melt, right? And that's not anything that we want to do here. For the ML100R light, I did not go with the kits. In fact, I just went with the basic light. I felt like I had enough accessories with the first one. I don't really need that 36-degree lens. Maybe if I need it down the line, I'll go ahead and pick one up. I probably will pick up another handle with the V-mount plate on there. I feel like that'll be useful to use with both lights, and that makes it portable. My experience with the unboxing of the R light was a bit different than that first one. That first one, I felt like it was polished, it was great. This one was a little different. I didn't expect to have a case with this, so it actually came with a small case, which was really nice. It only came with the light, that 15-degree lens, the stand holder, and the cover for the actual light in itself. But one of the things that I noticed was that little rotating dial that seemed to be spaced out a little bit more than I'm used to with that bicolor light. If you compare the two, you can actually see that the gap is a bit bigger. I thought that maybe it was loose or something was wrong with it, but it seems to be operating normally and okay. The other part of that is that LCD in the back didn't have some sort of protective cover on it. Like you can see on the bicolor, I still have that little sticker that would come with it because it was new. And so I thought that that was strange. And then when I removed the lens, in that silver area, you could see fingerprints as if it was handled as if it was being put together and they forgot to polish it. So it was a bit sloppy, you know, in terms of the presentation, but I can tell you that it hasn't affected the operation of it. Everything seems to be working fine. Again, that rotating knob isn't loose. Nothing about that plate is loose either. And looking at the LEDs, you can see that there's a huge difference in there too. There's that clear cover that's protected with glass. You can see the white and the yellow LEDs on the bicolor light, but on the R light, you actually see that it's frosted. So that was a bit of an eye opener there for me. You have the same vents, the intake, and there are different options, believe it or not, with both of them. And I'm going to go ahead and compare the two for you guys to see. But again, the unboxing was pretty simple, and I just didn't record the audio, so I figured I'd do this portion where I'm showing you what happened and what it looks like. So let's go ahead and talk about the differences between the lights, because they're pretty significant. Over here on the left, we have the 100R, and then over here on the right, we have the 100 Bi-Lite. They look similar, and honestly, there are very little differences between the two externally, but it's when you get on the inside and you start messing around with some of the options that you start to see what's really going on. And just remember, this little tag here indicates that it's the bicolor light, because again, it shipped with this. And there's also a gap here on the R light, like I pointed out earlier. We're gonna go ahead and hit power, but before we do, I want you to notice that there's a power/menu button at the top and just a mode button at the bottom. Whereas on the Bi-Lite, you just have the power button, and on the bottom, there's a mode/Bluetooth option. Now, both of these lights, you push in this rotating dial to select what you want. So let's go ahead and turn on both of these lights. All right, and immediately you see the difference in the interface. There's more of a graphical interface here, and it's full of color. The font is actually a little bit bigger, easier to read. And over here, you just have your regular command line style type of look. And you have the most basic look that you can have on here. Over here, this is really kind of hard to see, but it says CCT. And over there at the top, really small, it says CCT also, to indicate that you guys are in CCT mode. Now on the bicolor light, if we click on mode, it then goes over into the effects. And then you can cycle through the effects that you want by confirming that. And there's gonna be flashes as I kind of cycle through this, so just be aware of that. Once you find something that you like, you can go ahead and toggle on it again and then choose the speed, and then you can go ahead and get out of there. Now by default, rotating this will just increase the intensity. And that's all you have going on here. We go ahead and click on mode again, and now we have the option to do the same thing in CCT mode. And we have to select that to go ahead and then choose the color temperature that we want. Speaking of color temperature, this maxes out at 6,500 and it bottoms out at 2,800. Again, once you select the one that you want, you click on this again, and then by default, it is going to just adjust intensity. So the maximum brightness to the lowest amount of brightness. If you press and hold this down, you're gonna go into Bluetooth mode, where you can go ahead and reset the Bluetooth, or you can turn it on and turn it off. And Bluetooth is important because you can also control this through the application. So a lot of this is controllable through the application, and it's a lot easier to do that, especially if you already have a modifier on this and it's already posted up where you want it to be. Now, again, this is kind of, pretty basic, and it gets the job done, right? Nothing too crazy here, nothing too special. If we go over here into the R light, that's when, it gets kind of cool. First of all, instead of it automatically adjusting the intensity, it cycles through all the options that you have. So in CCT mode, you can adjust the intensity, which is labeled by dim, and then you can choose the color temperature that you want. And let me show you guys this, right? It actually goes all the way up to 10,000 Kelvin. And then it bottoms out, not at 28 like the other one, but at 1,800. So there's a much more expansive range on here. I mean, I'm scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. You can see that this will be way more, I guess, flexible and useful, and a lot more control on this light just off of this alone. But if that were it, then that would, I guess, be okay. But you can even control the green and the magenta here by selecting this, and you go down to the next section, and now you can go ahead and adjust the green by plussing it up here. I think this is green, and then you can go all the way down to magenta. Let me actually double check that. Let me make sure that we're right here. Okay, so, by the way, when I click on mode, you see all the other options, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me go back. I want to choose like a daylight color here so we can really take a look at what the magenta and the green slider is doing for us. All right, so choosing this, I'm going all the way up. Let me turn this off because this is polluting it. Okay, yeah, there we go. Going in the positive direction, you're going green with the shift. And then going in the negative direction, you're going magenta in the shift. And I didn't realize you can go all the way up to 100. Is that right? Whoa. Okay, well, there you go. And I'm scrolling here, it seems like forever. But you can see that it's starting to turn pink almost with all of that. And again, the control here is ridiculous. I went all the way down. And that looks like it's a pink light, not even magenta. If you're correcting that much, then you might not have daylight. All right, so let me get out of here and go back to that so y'all could see what I'm talking about here. So again, this is just the CCT mode and how impressive that is. Going through the next option, you have HSI, which is you can then toggle through all of the different hues. It goes up to 360 degrees. And then as you cycle through them, you'll just go through all the different colors. You can adjust the saturation, the intensity. Let me go ahead and go back to RGBW, and over here you can dial in exactly what you want, which is cool if you're working with specific colors that you don't have access to on the preset. And then over here you have your effects mode, and then the effects allow you to cycle through these, and I believe you have 14 effects here. But because this is an RGB light, you'll actually have the RGB effects of, say, a police car. The fireworks will actually show color, and it tells you exactly what you're looking at over here too. So you have SOS, cop car, welding. So if you wanted to get that, this is the party mode here. Just go ahead and activate that, and it's just going to kind of just do its thing. And then you can adjust, again, the dimness, the saturation, the speed of everything, and how it's going to work for you. And so, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But that is just the modes. You also remember you have a menu button. So when you go into the menu section, you have your Bluetooth section. By the way, just so you know, if you go into add this to the application, you need to reset the Bluetooth the first time, and you would do that in the Bluetooth section. So let's talk about the fan with the 100R, because I think this is what makes this actually stand out a little bit more to me than the bicolor light. You can actually adjust the fan speed. You could turn it all the way off. You can set it to auto, medium, or high. Now, if you set it to medium or off, then you're gonna limit your output. But if you set it to auto or high, then it'll just run. And I can tell you, if I set it to 100%, I actually have to listen for it. Whereas with the bicolor light, the fan will come on after you break 20%. It'll run on and off for about every minute and a half or so. And the other thing that I noticed too is that if it's lighting up at lower intensities, the fan noise will be higher pitched than if it is at higher intensities. Either way, at 100%, you can definitely hear the fan noise on this more than you can on this. Now, on camera, does the microphone pick it up? Not at all. Honestly, I've recorded a bunch of takes with this fan running in the background, and you really can't hear it on the camera. But it is something that if you're in the space, you can hear it. And depending on who is with you or what you're doing or the type of person you are, it might be distracting to the point where if fan noise bothers you, I would absolutely recommend going with the R over the bicolor light, just because there is that much of a difference in the fan noise. However, if you're going to be posting this up somewhere and you're not going to be around it, if you're concerned about it picking up on microphones, you're really not going to have an issue with the bicolor light, just so you are aware. Editor G here, I just wanted to maybe correct something that I said earlier. I said earlier the vents and everything like that are the same on both lights, but actually looking at this after doing the side-by-side, that is not true at all. In fact, if you notice the top light, which is the R light here, has larger vents than the one on the bottom, which is the bi-light. And so I'm thinking that there's obviously better ventilation as a result of this. And even maybe the heating and the thermals have been redesigned on here to make it more efficient. I'll tell you too that when I'm using that little snoot that I have on the bicolor light, that thing is hot. It is hot to touch. And they even say it too, digital photo and their marketing, like it can get hot. But on here, I can have it at 80%, 100%, and that snoot will not get hot on the R light. So there's something different going on here. And also, I want to point out that the back here, this actually gets really hot on the R versus this one here. Now, it'll get warm, it'll get hot, but you can feel the heat. It's a different type of hotness coming from here. So I just wanted to point that out that, yeah, I think you're getting better ventilation on the R light anyway. All right, so if we go into the next section, you have display. And over here, you can adjust the brightness of the display. You might want to be in an area where you don't want that backlight showing for whatever reason. Well, you can go ahead and adjust that. And I don't know if this impacts the battery life either, but that'll be something to kind of test out. And, as I use it, I can kind of follow up with you and let you know about that. But yeah, that is something to look out for. You can choose your language. Funny thing is, when I first set this up, you'll see what I mean. I chose, well, this looks like this now, but when you first turn it on, you have this selection and it's in Chinese characters, and right underneath it, it says English. So I thought the Chinese writing meant language, and I went ahead and I selected it, but I accidentally selected Chinese. So I'm going through this whole thing and I'm like, everything is in Chinese, and I figured out how to get back to kind of reset it to English. So it's something that got me. So just wanted to let you guys know about that too. Quick boot. Quick boot is actually really cool. I have my quick boot set to on. And really what this does is that if you disconnect power, or if you have to swap out, say, a V-mount battery, as soon as you plug it in, it automatically turns on the light again for what it was doing. So you'll see, I'm gonna go ahead and unplug this here. And I'm gonna go ahead, and this is directly DC. I'm gonna plug it back in, and the light comes right back on to the mode that I was in. And since I'm here, let me go ahead and change it over to CCT. All right, so that is quick boot and super useful. And factory reset is for you to just set it back to factory, which is what I did to get it to go to English for me. And over here I have fixture info. Fixture info basically gives you the version of the light, the model, which if you didn't know what it is, you know now, but also it tells you the running temperature of the actual light, which is really cool. So it's running at 30 degrees Celsius. On the bicolor light, there's absolutely none of that information on here. And just holding this down, I have an option to turn on the Bluetooth, reset it, or turn it off, but nothing else. And so in terms of functionality and options, you're getting a lot more. So the last thing that I want to point out is that there seems to be a discrepancy in the temperature values. So on the bicolor light, if I choose 3900 Kelvin, I'm getting a cooler light than I would get if I were using the same Kelvin value on the R light. In fact, the difference, at least to my eye, seems to be about 800 Kelvin to get it to match. So if I go over to this, you'll see I'm at 4700 versus 3900, but that is the same color that is showing on the wall here. Again, it's hard to see that in camera, but it is a difference here. If I go to, say, if I go to 5600 Kelvin on the bi light, and then I go to 5600 Kelvin on the R light, 5600 Kelvin daylight on the bi light is bluer. It is cooler on the bi light than it is on the R light. And again, I would have to bump this up by 800 to get matching, what, at least to my eye, the same color that is coming out of the bicolor light. It is just something that I also wanted to call out. If you're looking at mix matching these, just be aware that it looks like the bicolor light and the R light, they're not calibrated the same way. Now that you've seen those differences, maybe you could see how I'm starting to think about maybe I should return the bicolor light, because they're really, really different in terms of its control. Like the R light doesn't seem like just an RGB version of the light. It seems like, a better version of the bicolor light. It seems like that is the one to go for. And I guess if you're going to be shopping around and trying to figure out which one to go with, I don't know if I would mess with the bicolor light, especially given the sense of control that you have. I mean, from the green magenta coverage, and it's pretty deep. And then also you have the ability to have that extended range. 1800 to 10,000 Kelvin is going to be super useful. And then you can see the temperature that it's running at in case, you're in hotter environments or you want to be able to control that a little bit better. Again, I think that's the common theme with the R light, is that you get more control. You can even control the fan speed and how high it goes, although depending on how you limit it, you also limit the output. But still, you get to make those decisions with the R light. And so for me, I'm thinking, man, should I return my bicolor light? Because I'm within my return window and I could just pay that difference. But a part of me wants to keep it too, because there's always a need for bicolor lights. And I don't know, well, I'll figure it out. It's not like I paid full price anyway. B&H was having a sale and I got the R light from Adorama, which they were the only ones shipping it right away. Everybody else was under a pre-order, or it would be like delivered in the middle of April. So I don't know. Well, that's, I guess, a topic for another day, and I'll let you guys know what I decide doing. So now let's go on to the questions that I had about this light when I was doing my research on it, right? Would it work for me? How would it work with my modifiers? And I got to tell you, the answer is astoundingly yes. What they did with the Bowings adapter here was nothing short of genius. And the way they've able to keep it low profile and sturdy and reliable is great. I can use this with my lantern. I could use this with my MagMod softbox, which has a metal magnetic adapter, and it holds it with no problem. I have full confidence that this will work out, and the price of these are not that crazy. In fact, I ended up buying another one with the R-Lite, so I have two of these, and I can kind of wheel them around if I want. All right, let me interject here real quickly. I was trying to do some B-roll showing you guys how this adapter works. And what I found was this light stand here, it's not working, right? I'm like, what the hell? At first I was like, damn, this don't look right. Maybe I had it in the wrong position. But actually the little trick is there's a little groove here or some space here. You actually have to position this in a particular way in order for it to mount properly on the light stand. So let me show you what that is. You see how there's that gap there? So when you position it in the proper way with Godox facing out, see, I guess they want that branding there. And that's when you can go ahead and place this here. Let me see if this is true. And yeah, sure enough, it is. Perfect. So no problem here. And also it gives you enough space to remove it too. Okay. So you place it in here, boom, again, just like that. All right, so let's go ahead and put some Bowings modifiers on here, huh? Now, it's great that there's their own ecosystem, but for me, I didn't want to get locked into a proprietary mount if it wasn't going to be something that I was going to invest in long term. And I'm being honest with you, at least right now, I don't know if I'm going to need more than two of these lights. I know having one, I wanted the other one right away. And the other one being RGB, I'm going to see how I feel about having, you know, two RGB lights. Like I said, I could find use for the bicolor light still, even if I don't go full RGB on the second one. Now, my second question was, how was it going to do with portable power, right? Like my V-mount battery here, like would it work out? And I got to tell you, it worked out. Now, for talking head stuff, not necessarily the way I have the light set up here. I'm usually running anywhere from like 20 to 25%. At least that's what I've noticed in the last week or so. And at that range, this lasts for about 4.5 hours. So if I were to get a more powerful V-mount battery, I would be able to run even longer than that for like longer shoots if I needed to. And so that's a really good thing. And now in terms of power delivery, battery banks, I don't have a lot of those. And I wouldn't use this light with that. And I can tell you that there are other creators that have made videos testing that. And so you can see their results. And I'll say that those results are promising. I could also tell you that it works with my Anton Bauer battery base, and that works just fine. That actually gives you the amount of time that's remaining depending on the output. If I have it blasting at 100%, the battery indicator will let me know that I have about 40 minutes of run time left. Now, I will say this, if I use it at that 20%, which I'm used to using, I'm getting roughly 4.5 hours as well. So both of these battery solutions for me are incredible. Now, I did mention that I don't have a power delivery system. I guess I do here as well, but I'm going to use this with the DTAP. So, I mean, you know, it kind of is what it is with that. I think what Godox has done here is they've said, hey, listen, we'll give you a small light and you can adapt it and make it work however you are used to working. And that is a huge value add. All right, so my third question was, how's the app? Is it any good? I can tell you that at least from my experience with it for the last week or so, it's par for the course. If you're familiar with the Sidus Link app, it's similar to that. You can create scenes, you can save scenes, you can add multiple lights, you can control them. What I found to be useful was that you can actually put the lights to sleep from the app and wake them up as well. The one kind of caveat that I could tell you that I've noticed so far is that if I leave and I come back, let's say I've disconnected from the range of Bluetooth, I actually have to close the app altogether, relaunch it, and then it has to go through finding it. So I can only imagine that if you're actually working maybe in a ceremony type of situation, or if you're filming an interview and you have to like go to the other space, if you're far enough, you may disconnect and you may not be able to connect right away when you get back. So that I seem to think is probably normal, right, for all other apps too. So it'd be cool if they could figure out a way around that. But again, so far, so good with the application. The fourth question is, how's the ecosystem? And I guess that would go along with the application, but also, are the available accessories gimmicky? Are they going to be useful? I can tell you that there's a handful of useful accessories. So like this dome here is super useful. And if you're into photography, you could use it as a photography modifier as well. I mean, there's adapters for that case. This softbox right here with the grid, again, I find it to be super useful. I will say it, to me, it's a little expensive for it being a proprietary mount, but it is what it is. And I would actually see myself using this in the field. And then also, you know, you have that lantern, again, super useful for what it is. Even as small as it is absolutely functional. So the G mount system is fully fleshed out, and there's a whole bunch of other accessories that are coming and are already existing, because this ML series has been out for a while. This is probably like a refreshed version of them. So again, the ecosystem seems to be fully thought out, and so are the accessories. And so if you're not going to go for the Bowings and you want to go ahead and dive into whatever they got going on, I wouldn't blame you if you did, because it does seem to be pretty good. In case you don't though, you always have this. And the last question I had is 100 watts bright enough? I already feel like, at least from my experience and what I know already, that 60 watts is not enough. But can 100 watts do the trick? And for my last week with this light, I can tell you, absolutely, it can definitely hold its own, especially being as adaptable as it is. And, you know, with my VL150, I'm anywhere from about, I'd say 10% to about 30% given the lens and the frame rate that I'm using. And in the past week that I've been using the ML Bi-Light, I've been at about 23%. And again, that's using a 2.8 lens or a 1.8 lens shooting at, 30 frames a second. Now, if I'm shooting at maybe, 4K 60, I might have to bump that up to 30 or 50%. But even still, that would be more than enough to get the job done with this 100 watt light. Now, the difference between 150 watts and 120 watts, if it's running at its full power, is just 20%. And I'm never capping it out at the top end, at least for this type of setting and this type of scene. Now, if you're shooting interviews or doing anything else, obviously your miles may vary and you might need something else for sure. But this light would also be useful in those situations as maybe a kicker, or, to fill in some dead zones, especially with the available modifiers for them. So all in all, I really don't have too many negative things to say about this light. I'm really happy with it. And of course, I've only had it for a week and some change, but I got to tell you, I don't feel like I made a mistake here. I think this is really good, and we'll see what comes out next with Godox. Guys, I appreciate you guys watching this video. I know it was drawn out. There's a lot of stuff going on here. To me, these are the things that, I would want to know about, and I did have curiosity about, which is why I'm going over them in this video. I'll check you guys out in the next one. Peace.